Hello, this is Gerald Jovan. Um, it's not that because we don't realize very much how letters also have an orientation, other than the ones that we realize immediately that we have higher tones, lower tones, so middle tones, and sharp sounds and things that like that immediately are noticed. There are much more things that are less noticed, but they also define also a specific position and formulation and also formation of every letter separately, which combines with other letters. And I will provide you here with another example, and I will show you how boots has a specific orientation that is expressed also in the letters. And to finalize the reasoning, I will also compare it to the Dutch word boat and to the English word boat and to the Dutch word bot, because they are quite near to each other and they have a completely different meaning and form, but they are within that range of orientation. And I will express why this is getting into a different direction and different form as well from there. And in the background, you can always double check it. I have a foundation that is based upon the letters in the Pythagorean numerical order, but it's much more than that. They also fit to a geometrical order that builds up also in three dimensions at first, then with the time added to it, and also with context added to it into ever more splitting of the focus into more variations and more complexity, where the first region is really having only just one focus, the other one deals with the time differences, and the last focus is dealing with general applications that can be added to a position in time and space. That's basically the full theory, and you can always double check it. At the right, you have this scheme, so you can check it like where does this come from? Because during the explanation, I will not explain it too hard, even though I will describe it as correct as I can. And we start with the boots with the letter B, which basically is a pressure expressed like this. Combined with ooh, you have this doubling of space, which also starts from where this doubling of pressure starts. So we have a double space as well with the two kinds of pressures, and we then see where it starts from and where it is going. So from one pressure condition to the next out pressed condition. And in Dutch we express the oo sound with o and a. So basically our focus on the sound, because we also have to not just have to look at how is the word written, also how is it pronounced, because it gives a certain emphasis on something that we find important to emphasize that. It doesn't change the image, it doesn't change the structure, but the emphasis here on oo from the Dutch perspective is actually saying like, okay, but I look at the movement that I have because of this. With the expression of oo as it has been written more often, also not just with double O, but sometimes also as oo in English. The oo itself will always emphasize like what's the difference between that first region and the next region, and so what is the cause and result seen from where I start my starting point from and where it is going to, and what I understand where it is going to. That kind of attitude when we would associate it with oo. But I just explained it that it fits there as well, and it fits into the same region, the same structure with a slightly different emphasis. It doesn't change the structure by emphasizing that. The last letter is the T, so the boot ends in T. And T looks for, because all the letters go into one another, so you have to not just add them over on top of each other, but they are connected, so you find the connection points. What is the connection point of a functional point of reference in just one point, almost like a spatial point where this whole thing is happening. It's just in one point, and I focus upon it. It's always a bit higher, somewhere in the middle, and I have it there. That's the point of T, so I have my important point where boot is expressed in just one point. On its own, the boot formula, which I see here, doesn't say much. It doesn't express much in regards to what we understand as being a boot. It's not so very clear. We see it from one angle and so on. It's better maybe that we give it an overview in not just this two-dimensional direction, but into a three-dimensional vision upon what is going on. And there we have it in the right. It's a bit more clarified which points at the boot are emphasized there. What does it now mean that we express this formula to the boot? It's because I understand the essence of the letters well, that I also recognize it a bit better, because maybe most people who look now and think about boot, they will still say, but this doesn't fit the boot. Actually, it does fit the boot, and I will show you how. It does fit the attitude that we need of engagement towards the object, so that we sense the object well. That's the purpose of words, and it is all about that pressure point in space. So what does this pressure point mean in space with two different pressure conditions, so a pressed in and a pressed out? It's that pressure point that will give us a meaning to boot that makes it different from a shoe. With S to it, I can even add an extra sensibility to it, that we give it most effect there exactly where that point is. We have that open factor, like the S is, the influence from elsewhere, and give it an application there where the point of pressure is. How do we see that? If you see this image, you will immediately understand what's going on. It's going from outside and finds that pressure point and will try to get over it. That you have to find in this pressure point the way how to overcome it. So, and that is therefore is your attitude. Therefore is your attention needed towards the boots. But on the other hand, these so what we really have is these two spaces which don't fit together. So there's a bit of pressure in the shoe also of these two, of what you want to get in. The pressure point needs to stretch it a little bit so that you can overcome it. That's the sense that you have there. But if you look at the grammar, the S is not really referring as an action towards this pressure point with an emphasis to this. It is actually, even though such actions can be added and they are fit with the letters perfectly, it refers a bit more to plural. And how can we understand it? Am I wrong then in this case? No. And I will tell you why. Sometimes you can see a part of what is going on in 2 dimensions. Sometimes you see even more of the things a little bit better in 3 dimensions. It's the same thing when you also add time, then you know the time factor and the higher dimensions to realize what are the changes performed here. Here's only the pressure point in 2 or 3 dimensions. This is the pressure point which is there without the movement, without the time aspect. But a lot of letters also have a time aspect or time related or context related aspect. So let's also add an extra layer of dimensions. I also describe that in my book. The letters that are higher than 3 dimensions, in a way, you can only understand them in full context when you also add this extra dimension there, or deal with that extra dimension, which starts with dealing with the time and the time frame, and where the time frame is connected into that 3-dimensional or 2-dimensional image. And let's do that. The O in this theory, it says it's in 5 dimensions. It's actually more like it's 4 dimensions into a 2-dimensional spatial frame. So meaning that we have 2 aspects in time. So we compare 2 times or 2 time timing that we take out. So at some point you could say, okay, I don't take the point out now. Sometimes I take out the point here, or I can also take it out partially, or another time I can take it out completely. There is a certain time when I succeed, and that's that 2-dimensional frame where you can say, okay, in this moment, yeah, I have it. So in this moment, you have like a wave in time, and when the wave is at its maximum, you can pull it out, you can use it to make the change, to find the right moment to lift it out. So here you have the change, and the O also says it is lifting out the right moment in time and in the time frame, which is then again horizontal at that stage to define at which moment you have what. And here you have the most successful moment, of course, in the highlight at the right moment. And then the last letter, the letter S, if you really look at it in the theory, it says 9 dimensions. It's abstract if you see that, but actually it is a time dimension into a full 3-dimensional vision. What does that in reality means? It means that you have a form, you have a formula, which is a general formula, because it's in context and the generalization things. You have a general formula, you know what it is about, you know the pressure point, you recognize the pressure point, you recognize the circumstances. Once you find these circumstances, again, you have another opportunity, another application. And that's why S also fits perfectly in the ending of a word to fit to the idea of plural, because it simply says I find an application, or I find its full effect each time when I find the right conditions and descriptions and so on, and it's there, and the moment as well with the O, and there I have it again. So I can have it multiple times. And that's what the boots are. You have it in multiple positions. You can have it multiple times. You have this lifting up from one space to another multiple times. Now, just to finalize it, I just demonstrated it at home here and saw, is that enough? And they said to me, no, you also have to compare it also to, because people will say, okay, but what about boat? The Dutch word boat, also written as boat, it should have the same, shouldn't it have the same structure more or less? But it's not pronounced as oo, but in this case as oh. So what is the difference? What does, and in English it's boat. So what's the difference then? If we have the same structure, we have a different object. What do we really have that is different? I know I already expressed it before, but I will compare it back again to this structure of boat, but with an emphasis of O. And this emphasis of O always says there's an uplifting here, that we feel and sense a connection into the environment, into a full circle of everything what is involved with all the points that we have there. There is the O focus, and not the U focus. There's the O focus. So that emphasis goes to that one. And the T then, in that case, will also move a little bit, because it has this O sound. It will move a little bit and will move to the position in which T can be found in O. Just look it up in the theory and you know that it has to have that position. And that will make it fit to boat. And with the English version, it's even more clear, because we have an emphasis with the sound that is O, which is a reference from O to A. So it is like mixing it a little bit. It's an O which is more expressed as an A. So it's that in-between zones. In a way it says, no, I will focus upon the foundation, the center point foundation that I have in it. And I will do that. I will have these two circular foundations. So I'll have the circular foundation emphasized from O to A, or I can even switch them, on which the T is already known, and then the B will also be around that, because it will follow this O thing, and will emphasize where it comes from or where it will go to. I will put it here on top, but it can be at the bottom as well, and it will not take very far to also see what is happening. You see, the boat is already forming itself, and it will be on top as underneath, with some pressure, or even going to the sides as well. But then the last word is a Dutch word, has an emphasis on the letter O, so that enlarging here, instead of the boat, it's enlarging around just one center of enlargement, which the B also has to fulfill the circular expansion also, and the T as well will come to it, so that you can really have B-O-T, as you can see here. And what is the B-O-T on the bot? In Dutch, okay, there are more options, but much of explanations, but I will already take two of them. In the Dutch word, I'll just explain it, that you immediately can see where it comes from into a physical positions that they have. The first meaning is it is a flat fish, where the body and the head are even flattened out together, so that you can only just see one body flattened together, let's say. Or it means blunt, rough, or unpointed. The kind of flat fish that it has, we also call it a flat fish, is looking like this, and it also is matching to the structure underneath. So it has this spatial roundness, which has the B around it. It starts actually with on the face with the B, with the pressure, the O with that space, and the T, which is that if you have the right angles here, you have it from face to tail, you can recognize the patterns of the three letters. And if you look even closer to how the fish looks like from that, where it starts from the B, from that pressure there, you see also that it has such a pushed, crooked, and even, you have the other word, the blunt nose or face. And B is that pressure point that goes to the side, pushed sideways, pushed aside, and that again fits with that fish. I hope this brought you closer to understand how letter combinations Or like formulas, and the formulas brings you into a direction that it makes that you makes it so that you can recognize it also if you learn to recognize it. It fits anyhow if you recognize it or not. Just like colors fit if you recognize them, what they mean and what they are. You sense them most of the time unconsciously, because people are mostly unconscious about almost anything, or they just repeat what someone else said. If you sense what is there and you learn to sense it with a little bit more detail, you come to this theory. The theory itself will help you and guide you, that you recognize these positions and directions and contexts a little bit more quickly. And I hope, thanks for watching. Bye bye.